Someone has unleashed the when it comes to terror.
Oh, they've really picked some great country to go filming your clip.
Yeah. You guys have worked with Evans before?
Yeah, sure I have. If you can call it work.
I always said film crews were bad news.
Keep to the main body of your lake. There was some people lost up here in one of the estuaries. When we finally found them, they were dead.
Brings back memories of those movie killings a few years back.
Yeah. They were making movies. They were film people.
You see, there was this terrible fire, and some of the cast were killed.
Now remember, you're all young and horny, lots of smiles.
These are national forests.
You know what all this means? We'll be hiding again. I'll have to take care of you so as they don't lock you away. These are just innocent film people. You don't have to hate the movie people forever.
And turn down Buddy Robbie.
Oh my God! That director, what's his name? Grant Evans, wanking as usual. Look at him.
The song really is a bag of shit.
Hi, I'm Spice Williams Crosby from Fatal Games, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back after a long absence. We are back in the saddle for a trip down under to a Houseboat Horror, which we'll be getting onto a little bit later. But yes, welcome to episode 78, and greetings to my fellow Antipodean vacationers, which we haven't spoken on air for quite a while. So, Erik, how are you?
I'm fair income.
Oh, okay. So you've been going down under.
I'm fair income.
Okay. Right. Well, Joseph, how are you doing?
Well, I'm up at 8 a.m. to talk about Houseboat Horror. I think it's safe to say my life officially sucks.
Okay. Well, yes, we don't want to spoil what we think of Houseboat Horror, although anyone who's read my review on Hysteria Lives might know. But Nathan, how about you? You feeling chipper?
Young and groovy.
Okay. Well,
are you cool? Just young and groovy. All right.
Yes, well, we will be coming on to Houseboat Horror a little bit later. And who chose this for us? This is another listener's pick, isn't it?
Kieran Edwards. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, so we'll just call you Cabe Gaplin.
Okay, right. Is that an AKA then for Kieran?
Cabe Gaplin is his AKA. Like Gabe Kaplan, it's just Cabe Gaplin.
Okay, right. Well, thank you. We'll decide a little bit later whether it's a thank you or a fuck you for this pick. It will be the latter, but we will get onto that a little bit later. We've got lots to talk about because we've been on a little bit of sabbatical, haven't we?
Yes.
Because of our busy jet-setting lifestyles and various things that we've been doing, and those that we're joking about breaking Erik out of a Turkish prison. But how was that Turkish prison, Erik? Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I thought you might. So I'm sure you can break back in after the episode if you want to.
Oh, I will be. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we're recording early. I've got to catch a flight.
Okay, right. Well, fair enough. Maybe we can get an episode from Istanbul next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, we haven't got a top three. We will try and think of a top three sometime soon, or something to replace the top threes. But we're thinking, we're trying to think of something suitable. But
Thompson Twins.
Well,
records we can play instead.
Yeah, that might be a short segment.
Well, I'm sure there's something we could do for a top three because people are just asking about them, like they want them to come back. So we'll just have to come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, we could even revisit some of our earlier lists and see if anything have changed, just so we can get
that would actually be fun.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like a remake.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So we can have a look at that at some point soon. But as we're easing ourselves back in, as it were, we're just going to go straight to recently seen because there's going to be an awful lot of them. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about The Night Before Easter, which is now out and is available on demand. So, Nathan and Joseph, are you happy with its reaction?
am very happy with the reaction because it's been, some positive, some negative, but I would say even the negative can at least appreciate a couple of things about it. So it's about what I expected or hoped for, I'd say.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how everyone's taken to it. On a personal level, I'm really quite sick of the movie because I think I've seen it like 100 times more than anyone else because I've edited it. But yeah, I'm glad people are finding something to enjoy about. For me, it's definitely something I can improve upon with pacing and stuff and budget. But yeah, I'm glad people like it for such a, we did it with like a few pennies. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are having fun with it.
Yeah, and how can people see it if they haven't seen it already?
If you go to Vimeo.com, that's Vimeo. Just search for The Night Before Easter. You can rent it for 3 days for $1.99, or you can download it for $2.99. And we also want to give a shout out to the what is that sound?
What sound?
That's an airplane. Sorry.
I live in the airplane zone.
Yeah. Anyway, we also want to put out a shout out to my brother's soundtrack, which honestly a lot of people think is the best part of the film, and I somewhat agree with them. If you really like a lot of 80s synth style, horror film music, I really, really, really suggest checking out his soundtrack, which is for sale. You can go to, let me look up that address because I'd really like a lot of people to hear this. 1 second, please. And there it is. It's scotthenson.bandcamp.com. I'm sure the album is listed on there. He's got a few of his own personal things for free on there. But you can purchase the 23-track soundtrack for $6, and it's an hour long, or you can buy one track each at $1. So show him some love and check out his soundtrack for the Night Before Easter.
Excellent. And are you going to be having a big screen event? Did I read somewhere?
Yes, I'm planning on it here in our town. Probably be June the 14th, okay. But it's going to play at this local small theater here.
Excellent. Okay. Or you can have all the cast there and family and the shoe rack.
Oh, I wish the shoe rack could be there.
Yeah.
I kind of wish the shoe rack could take my place so I don't have to watch it again.
Well, maybe it could. You could put a tuxedo on. Well, actually, the shoe rack is no more, isn't it? I think.
No, it's gone.
Mm. Oh.
I was telling Joseph, I'm like, all these comments he's making, oh, I'm sick of it. God, I just don't want to watch it. I'm like, yeah, that makes people want to rush out and rent it. Let me tell you.
Well, they'd understand if they've seen it 10,000 times.
Mm. Well, I think you should also, the person who apparently edited Houseboat Horror for 2 years probably knows your pain, Erik. Sorry, Joseph. So that puts into some kind of perspective.
Well, it's bad enough that I've seen the movie, at least 400 times, but now you just call me Erik.
I know.
You should be proud.
Yes, absolutely. I was getting confused because Erik came across all Australian. Not that you're Australian, but anyway. So can you say anything about, you've got some follow-up things coming, haven't you? Can you talk about those now, or are you keeping stum?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of public knowledge. We're doing 2 short films. One is called Room for One More, which is based on that old Room for One More urban legend. The other is an original we came up with called Till Dusk, Do Us Part. We're not really going to say what it's about. And then we're going to do a full-length film, hopefully with a much, much higher budget, called Gory Graduation.
Yes. The infamous fake film, which will now be a reality.
From the IMDb from way, way back.
Mm. Would you follow it up with Summerhouse Slaughter, do you think?
We're talking.
Yes, we are.
Okay, interesting. So that'll be... Yes, well, that's... will be good. So if anyone... Are you going to do new... Facebook sites, or are you going to keep the Night Before Easter one running, or what are you going to do?
Well, the Night Before Easter one, it's going to stay up, but we already have Facebook sites for all 3 of those, and if we tackle Summerhouse Slaughter, we'll put one up for that. But I just feel those 2 movies, since they caused such an uproar way back when, I think they deserve to be made.
Absolutely, yes. Good stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much. Just a couple of things that I've just been up to while we've been away. I guest hosted. Well, I was a guest host on Jalo Chow Chow, which is the Creeperson and the Phantom Eric's podcast about Jali and Jalos. And revisited Eyeball again, which is a Jalo that we reviewed on this show about 2 or 3 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. So if you've not checked out Jalo Chow Chow, then do it, because it's a great little podcast, and it was great to be on there. Another thing I did recently was I recorded a commentary for the upcoming DVD release. I moderated a commentary for Jake Helgren's director of Varsity Blood, and that was a lot of fun. So hopefully that commentary will make the release, which I can't remember when he said it was going to be, but I think it may be it's going to be a little bit later this year, but that's coming up soon. And I know quite a lot of people have been looking forward to watching that, so that should be good. And in a couple of weeks' time, I think just before the next podcast, actually, I'm going to an Italian horror seminar festival thing up in Luton, where I'm going to meet a few directors, hopefully, and I might be able to get a few little bits and pieces for the podcast for future episodes. So I'll report back after I've done that when we do the next podcast, which at the moment we'll talk about later and tell you what it's going to be, but that'll be in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully we'll be back on a relatively regular routine. Do we think, folks?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Although I will be disappearing for a good chunk of June, but we can discuss it.
Oh, Erik.
Yes.
Well, we can sort something out, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
Just so you guys know, this hiatus we took was all Eric's fault.
It wasn't my fault. I was away for Easter, and that was it.
Yeah, it is your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault, Erik. But anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's move forward to recently seen, and we should have quite a lot actually to talk about. So, Nathan, do you want to go first? What have you been watching recently?
I watched Borderlands. I actually liked it. I thought that it was actually very creepy. Like, it had this weird, like, sense of dread throughout, which I really enjoyed. And some of the jump scares really got me and made me jump, which was awesome. And we watched it with Grant on Friday, and it's hilarious to watch a scary movie with him because he, like, peeks through his fingers while he's watching it.
Does he? Right.
Yes. He says it helps. You know, it takes away some of the sting of the jump scares. But, I mean, that was fun. But I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of the way the movie ends. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but, I mean, there's several reasons why. But the ultimate one, you know, without spoiling it, is how did that footage get found?
Well, I can answer that.
You'd have to answer it off the record, though, because it'd be a spoiler.
Well, it's not really a spoiler to say that the cameras were sending a feed to a recorder, although when you think about it, you kind of wonder how the feed survived, you know, where, you know, how did it get to the... Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
But, yeah.
You watched it as well, Joseph, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't think I liked it as much as Nathan. I appreciated a lot of it. I think some of it had that kind of Session 9 slow burn dread, which I really liked. But for the most part, it was really way too long, and I think they overdid some of the glitchy effects that, you know, permeate a lot of these found footage films. And, you know, I wasn't crazy about the ending. I was like, I get what they're doing here, and it's clever, but I was just expecting something else. I'd actually, you know, pinpointed. I was like, you know, about 10 minutes before the actual ending, I was like, oh, I see what's going on here, and then it took a different direction. I was like, oh, well, that's okay. That's not what I thought was going to happen, and it's not really what I wanted to happen. But you know, what can you do? But overall, if it, like, out of 10, I'd give it like a 4, maybe a 5.
Okay, what about you, Erik? You've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah, I suppose we should tell people what the setup is. It's about a team of paranormal investigators who go to investigate this paranormal activity in a remote British church. And that's one of the things that attracted me to the film, is that I think churches, particularly at nighttime, are one of the eeriest locations you can have for a horror film, and I think it really uses the location to its fullest advantage. For me, I thought the real ace up the sleeve of the film was the ending. Unlike Nathan and Joseph, I was floored by the ending. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's really ludicrous and over the top, but it's very, a lot of found footage films leave you hanging at the end, whereas this one had a definite conclusion, and I loved it, I have to say.
I think my favorite part of the movie was actually the acting, especially by the older guy, Deacon, with the beard. I thought he was really, really good, and I was like, I liked his character a lot. And I thought this guy has some really, real talent. I like these characters, but overall, I wish they were in a better film for me personally.
Well, I kind of side more with Erik. I mean, for me, I think it's the best horror film I've seen this year so far. I thought it was really good. So it's obviously a polarizing film, but I don't know whether or not it actually resonates better with Erik and myself because of the mythology or the idea. Because obviously I'm in the part of that world, in so much the West Country is kind of, I'm on the edge of the West Country. And so that whole thing, I don't know, do you think, Erik, that might be?
It could be, yeah. It could be.
Yeah. We don't want to give anything else away about why that might be, but it's, because I also thought the ending was by far and away the best thing in the movie as well, which I thought was, actually kind of really stayed with, sort of resonated quite how horrible it was, afterwards. But as I say, different strokes for different folks. But just on the side by that, I did mention on Facebook, I talk about found footage because we took a trip to somewhere called Woodchester Mansion, which would be a great place to make a slasher movie. Which is relatively close to where I live. I've never been there before, but it was a mansion that was abandoned in 1850 before it was finished. It was about 3/4 built, which meant that they didn't have a lot of the floors weren't in, the roof was on and things like that. But they abandoned it basically after they ran out of money, but it's pretty much finished. And it's this kind of Gothic mansion, which is now kind of open to the public and you can walk around it. But apparently it's one of the most haunted places in Britain, and you can go back at night and spend the night there with a kind of ghost hunting crew. No, I don't really believe in ghosts, but I thought it would be a great place for a slasher movie. And then we went to another place, which is called the Ancient Ram Inn, which that sounds a little bit rude, but it's this kind of old pub B&B where you used to be able to stay up until last year, which again is supposed to be one of the most haunted places in Britain, with lots of, and apparently there's an incubus which gets into bed and fucks you, apparently. So that's something.
Sign me up.
Something for if that turns you on, but. We looked through the windows, and what was really creepy about it, there was a kind of this kind of curtain. You could just see behind it a human skull, which is obviously just all. I mean, it wasn't somebody who died in there, but and we watched. Have you ever seen? I know you get in America, you get those all those kind of ghost hunting programs. But Erik, do you ever watch the Derek Acorah episodes of Most Haunted?
No, I'm aware of them, but I've never watched them.
You should watch them. They're hilarious.
Is that the one that the Happy Mondays run at once? Or is that a different ghost hunting one?
It might be. Yeah. But he was like, they always have these kind of, clairvoyants, always kind of rather camp, overweight gay men, aren't they, for some reason? I'm not sure why that is. But, and he's on there, and he goes into possessions, he gets possessed. And there was one bit which was hilarious when he was, Yvette Fielding, who's one of the presenters, and he pretends to be possessed, and he goes, "You slut," to the presenter. So I don't know if he was really possessed or he was just. But anyway, he was found out to be a fraud and kicked off the program. But they did one from the Ancient Ram Inn and Woodchester Mansions as well, which were quite entertaining, and people throwing bits of masonry across the camera and basically it's all kind of. I'm sure it's all bullshit, but just an aside, as a kind of found footage type thing. Do you get those? Do you still get those kind of ghost hunting things in the States?
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah, I can imagine there's lots.
We
of
have ghost tours here in Chattanooga as well.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, because there's a few spots in Chattanooga that are rumored to be haunted. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, as I say, it'd be good. I thought if you ever do make a movie in England, then Woodchester Mansion might be a good place to. Because I thought that could be quite a good setup for a slasher movie, couldn't it? Because I know they've done films like, was it Grave Encounters and all those kind of films, so they're not really slasher movies, are they? But if you have people trying to contact the dead, but in fact there's somebody, a psycho turns up and starts killing off people. If
you're listening out there, just send us money and we'll film there.
Okay. Yes. We'll send. We're always open for donations. But back to Nathan. Sorry, it's a very long gap there, Nathan. But what else have you been watching apart from Borderlands?
I watched the newer film Stage Fright about the killer at the musical camp killing off, I guess, musical theater hopefuls. This movie, I can't say I didn't like it because I did, but the slasher aspect of it was handled very clumsy, I guess. And that kind of bothered me because, like when the, kills do happen, they're actually pretty fun. But I just don't like the idea of, they have a very brutal opening kill. And then there's not another death until like almost an hour into the movie. I'm like, if it's a slasher movie, we need something. I know with Not Before Easter, we took some, flack for, there being a little gap as well, but it wasn't an hour. But the campiness was a lot of fun, so I did enjoy that, but it's just, like, it's almost like they waited until like the last, few minutes to kill off a few people, and then that's it. And plus, they might as well have hung a neon sign on the person that ended up being the killer. I'm not spoiling it, but I'm just saying it was extremely obvious from the get-go. And it's funny at the end, they're treating it like it was just some big like shock reveal. But no, it's a fun movie, but if you're watching it wanting to see a slasher movie, then you might end up disappointed.
Okay, what about Erik and Joseph? Have you seen it?
No.
No, I have an aversion to musicals, so I'm a little trepidatious, but I'll get around to it.
Well, I've seen it, and I probably liked it more than you, Nathan. But I seem to remember it not being. I think there was that whole thing that it didn't really kick into gear as a slasher movie after the kind of brutal opening, didn't it? With Minnie Driver, who you don't expect to see in a slasher movie, but she's not in it. She literally is in it for 5 minutes, isn't she? So. But I enjoyed it. It's very nicely shot, isn't it? And it has a kind of campy, fun sensibility, but perhaps not campy enough. Perhaps it didn't really push the envelope. I felt, but some of the kills are very, very gory. And I say it's beautifully shot, and there's some, it's very witty as well. I know Patrick from Scream Queens was raving about it, and I think if you are into musical theatre, it probably would play better with you, because I think there's some jokes that kind of went over my head that I didn't get, and I think it's kind of made for an audience who's familiar with that type of thing, perhaps.
I think if they would have had a more even balance, I think it was more heavily musical theatre than a slasher movie. I think if they could have balanced it a little better. Because, like I said, I did like it, but I just thought if they would have balanced that a little better, and I actually like musicals, so that part of it I thought was fun. I think my problem was when I watched it, I was expecting a slasher at a musical camp, not so much a musical camp with a side story of a slasher.
Kind of sounds like what the original Stage Fright did right, where they opened with this musical number and then they stopped and then just went full on, slasher film. It sounds like that's what that should have done.
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see what you and Erik think, Joseph, when we finally get around to watching it. But okay, Nathan, anything else?
Yeah, I got two more. Okay. The first one I'm just going to talk about very quickly, but it's Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, which is an amazing movie that I love. There's not many films, where people get killed by having their tongue pulled out and it stretches like 10 feet.
There may be a reason for that.
Huh?
There might be a reason for that.
Well, and then one person who gets flushed down a toilet. You wouldn't expect a human to get flushed down the toilet.
Yeah,
I know, like a cat.
I think that's a good time to throw that in, since we're not going to have a top three.
Oh, that's true. Let me see if I can. It never gets old.
Yay! It never does.
78 episodes later, and we're still hanging on to that.
Yeah. But Ghoulies 3 is my favorite Ghoulies film.
That is high praise.
It's the best.
That is
Yes.
high praise. Yeah.
It is.
I've only seen 1 and 2. I haven't seen 3 or... There's a 4 as well, isn't there?
Eric, there's actually a scene in 3. Yeah, there is. But there's a scene in 3 I think you'd like, since you like cheesy, like 80s music from, horror movies. It's this girl. I mean, she's kind of doing a striptease because she's the slut of the movie. And I love the song that she's dancing to. And it's one of those mystery songs. Nobody can find out who sang it or anything. So I wish that people could find this song, because I would like to actually own it. But it's like disappeared into 80s horror movie obscuredom.
Just like Young, Cool and Groovy.
Yes.
No. But we know who sang that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a Ghoulies movie.
No?
No. I'm a Ghoulies virgin.
Oh,
They're not bad.
I envy you.
To watch them. and watch part 3 for sure, because it's the one where somebody can get killed with a plunger.
Okay. Just like, what's that other film someone gets killed with a plunger?
Bikini Island.
That's right, yes. Okay.
Just as an aside, someone does get flushed down the toilet in a bloodbath at the House of Death with Vincent Price.
And Kenny Everett.
Yes. And Pamela Stevenson.
Thanks.
Not a great movie, if that's my memories.
Oh, I love that movie.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed when I first saw it, because I thought it was going to be a kind of a gory horror movie rather than a rather silly, rather dull parody.
Yeah.
No, it's not dull. It's like a Student Bodies.
Well, yes, dull.
Yeah.
No, Student Bodies is awesome too.
Your argument is invalid.
Yes. Well, actually,
how can you not see that?
I would like, it would be great for us to do an episode, I think, on Students' Bodies or a Wacko or a Pandemonium or something like that, because I think it'd be quite interesting for us to chat about them. Because, to be honest, I've never sat all the way through Student Bodies. So
I'm picking that then. I'm picking it.
Thank you, Nathan.
Well, you can thank Justin because he hasn't seen it. I have to pick it now.
I've seen most of it. It's just I always kind of fall asleep or
yeah, I've seen
turn it
the
off.
start of it as well, and I can't remember if I've seen it all the way through, but...
I think it's the one of the few slashers that slasher parodies doesn't stay true to being a slasher movie the whole way through, because most of the others, like Pandemonium and Wacko, certainly goes off in completely different tangents, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, Wacko's parodying like a ton of different types of films.
Yeah, it's a bit more like scary movie film, isn't it? Films. But yeah, okay. Well, you had one more, didn't you, Nathan?
The only other one, and Joseph has seen it too, was Contracted, with a girl after getting, I guess, date raped. I mean, I don't know if she's date raped or not. I mean, she was way too drunk, I guess, to know what she was doing. So I guess it kind of is, with this random stranger, and then, she ends up getting what she thinks is an STD. And as time goes on, it gets worse and worse. And she ends up looking, like Joseph said, she looks like Sushi. Is that what you said, Joseph?
I don't remember.
Sushi and the Banshees.
Yeah, nice. He said something about she looks like raw sushi or something, and it's kind of true. Now, this movie's getting, I guess, a lot of hate. I don't understand it. Like, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing amazing, but, I thought it was a decent way to kill, an hour and a half or however long it is. It's not fantastic, but it's all right. And I thought the ending to it was very clever. Like, the ending probably kind of saved the movie for me, because I thought it was a very clever way to end the film. And plus, I loved it when her girlfriend, like the man-hating girlfriend, like, I love when, something bad happens to her, and I won't spoil it, but, she was just a very unlikable character, so I love seeing her get what she deserved, I have to say.
I'd say they're all unlikable.
Or is it one of those kind of movies?
There's nobody in it, I guess, I guess that's true. There's nobody in it that's, like, super likable, but most of them all get what they deserve.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it. Eric, you've not seen it, have you?
I haven't seen it, no.
And Joseph, you weren't that keen, I take it.
I'm about 50-50. I like the idea of what it's basically a setup film, but I'm not going to spoil anything else. But like I said, I didn't like the characters, and I understand that they kind of had to be unlikable because of kind of the underlying message of the movie, but the tone was just completely off, and I don't know. some of the people just did some of the dumbest things, and I'm like, I just slapped my forehead like, ugh, I can't believe this is happening. But yeah, it's a good one-time watch, but I wouldn't, it's not something I'd want to watch over and over again.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Let's come on to Joseph then.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. We were speaking of found footage films, and one I watched, aside from Borderlands, which is kind of like Borderlands in that it uses some kind of real life, well, I wouldn't say phenomenon, but basically it's called The Conspiracy. It's about these two documentary filmmakers who start investigating all these crazy conspiracy theories like, 9/11, it was an inside job, or the government's, got this secret underground organization that basically controls the world, et cetera, et cetera. But they meet with this this wacko conspiracy theorist, and one of them starts to kind of believe in these conspiracy theories himself, and he just kind of goes off the rails, and they start investigating this supposed underground organization. That's pretty much all I'm going to say. But I really like this one. It's another kind of slow burn build up, but it kind of stays in the realm of reality and doesn't use anything supernatural at all. And the last 20 minutes are some of the most nerve shredding, like edge of your seat moments in any found footage film. And I really enjoyed it a lot. It's called The Conspiracy. If you haven't seen it, if you'd like to look it up.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Make a note of that one. What about, have you seen that, Nathan?
No.
Okay. And I presume you haven't, Erik?
No.
Okay. Excellent. Joseph, anything else?
Yeah, just one more. I watched the WNUF Halloween special. It's a Baltimore lensed independent, like kind of, I don't really want to call it found footage. It's basically, the idea behind it is that there was this public access or broadcast in 1987 of a newscaster who goes to a supposed haunted house to investigate why it's haunted. And it's a pretty good film. I enjoyed it a lot, but the best part about it is that it is the best recreation of the 80s I've ever seen. I mean, I'm always complaining, like, well, these people are like, yeah, what I set out to do with this movie is that I really wanted to recapture the 80s, and they failed. But these guys, they had, like, no budget, but what they did here is, like, incredible, because the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, this must have really come from the 80s, because nothing in it looks out of place. I mean, it literally looked like someone recorded this on TV in 1987. It was just incredible set design and everything like that. Fashion, hair, vernacular. It's just, seek that out. It's called WNUF Halloween Special, and it's not really scary. It's more just kind of fun, kind of a fun little horror film. But if you really want to see a good, recreation of the 80s, definitely check this out. It also has a minor role from you guys will know him as Remy from the forums. He plays a preacher in the film.
Okay. And so it's not a comedy film?
No, it's a horror film, but it's more like a mockumentary.
Okay.
I just wouldn't say it's scary. It's just more kind of entertaining. But, like I said, you won't find any movie that recreates the 80s. Even some of the bigger budget films who, spend a lot of money recreating an era don't do as good a job as these guys have done.
Okay. Oh, no, it sounds good. I'll track that one down. So is that everything, Joseph?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, thank you. Erik, how about you?
Yes, well, to show how prevalent found footage films are these days, I've seen two sort of recent-ish ones. First was the latest Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, which is the fifth, but although I think the one coming out later this year is actually going to be the official Paranormal Activity 5, this is actually a spin-off, or so we're told, mainly because it's set in a Latin American community as opposed to wherever the other four were set. And this one is definitely an improvement on part 4, which I thought was the weakest of the series. It has hints of Chronicle, which was one of my favorite found footage films, which was out a few years ago, because the possessed lead character in it starts developing these superpowers, which he seems kind of excited with, to start with. He's able to fend off potential muggers by using, some kind of supernatural force, and he finds he has this odd ability to levitate, and but slowly, things become more sinister. And there's a great plot device in it where our lead actors use the old electronic 80s game Simon as a Ouija board. Basically, they ask Simon questions, and if he beeps red, it's no, and green for yes. So I thought that was kind of a fun touch, because I was a big fan of Simon back in the day. How easily amused we were. But I mean, apart from that, it's very much more of the same. If you're not a fan of the series, this quote spin-off certainly isn't going to win you over at all. It's very much more of the same. Quiet, and then something very loud and sudden pops up or jumps out at you. And but I mean, with all of the series, I find that there's something from entertaining within them, even if you have to wait maybe 15-20 minutes between scares for them to happen. I mean, I like the Paranormal Activity series, and there are some genuinely eerie moments in this one, but it's not, as I said, not going to win anyone over. So I know, Justin, you're not a huge enthusiast on the series, but I think Nathan might back me up on this one.
I will. I really, really love the Paranormal Activity movies, and I have not seen this newest one, so I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's better than 4. It's better than 4, definitely.
And I actually really liked 4, so
I don't think 4 was too bad, but the 4 had a lack of scares, I thought, compared to the other ones.
Yeah, I agree.
I like this series.
Do you? Oh, sorry, I thought you didn't. Sorry.
No, I do. I think I like the first one. I thought the second one was a bit lackluster, and the third one was really good. The fourth one was a lackluster as well. So
this one, I think, there's more going on in this one, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Joseph, have you seen it?
No, I liked the first film. I thought the second one was basically a retread of the first, but it had a few moments. Third one, pretty much the same. I haven't seen the fourth one yet, or the fifth one. So
okay, well, the other found footage movie I watched this week was Devil's Due, which was out, I think, in cinemas around January or so. It's kind of a found footage take on Rosemary's Baby, because this satanic cult impregnate an American woman on her honeymoon, and as pregnancy develops, sort of unusual things start to happen. It gets quite over the top in places, which is actually not a bad thing at all. And there's a great scene where 3 teenagers find the pregnant lead actress up to nefarious doings in the middle of the woods. But I mean, the whole film is quite entertaining, and it's not as slow as a lot of found footage films are. I mean, it kicks off quite well, I thought. It's very similar to one I saw last year at the Horathon called Delivery. I was going to mention that. Yeah, that was a much slower film, but had an absolutely knockout ending. Devil's Due was more consistently entertaining, even if it didn't have the punch at the end that Delivery had. But I mean, I would recommend it. I mean, it's trashy mainstream entertainment, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I liked Devil's Due, I have to say, even though reviews generally were negative for it.
Was that the Eli Roth, wasn't it, who directed that? Or
was it? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think he just kind of executive produced it.
Oh, did he?
Had anything
All right.
really to do with it. I could be wrong though.
Let me check.
No, he did. He had something to do with it. He maybe just.
Oh, did he? Oh, sorry. Yeah, but it is quite good. I mean, it's good. It's very mainstream as far as these found footage films go. So, nobody else has seen it, no?
No.
I want to.
It bombed,
I think you'd like
office.
Nathan. Sorry.
It bombed at the box office, didn't it?
Did it?
In the States, yeah. I don't think...
Yeah,
did it get a cinema release
out for
here?
a week, and then that was it.
Yeah, I don't think it got released at the cinema here, did it? Did you see it on DVD, Erik?
Saw it on DVD, yeah, but I did get cinema release over here.
Oh, did it? I don't know. Maybe I blinked and missed it here, but... Cool.
I also watched Dolls, which has just been released on Blu-ray over here. It's the Stuart Gordon movie from 1987 about demonic toys, obviously. What I like... always kind of had a soft spot for this film. It's a very lean 77 minutes. There's no filler. It's produced by Charlie Band, actually, which I didn't realize until I was rewatching it. So, I mean, it gave an indication of where he was going with his career, because he went on to make all those Puppet Master and Demonic Toys films in the 90s after that. But the thing that stood out to me in Dolls was there was 2 punks in it, one of whom was played by Bunty Bailey. Does anyone know who... Does anyone recognize her name? Or you'd recognize her face, I'd say, if you saw her.
Well, I know I've seen the movie, so I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she is actually the female lead from the Take On Me video by Aha.
Okay.
But
Oh, I did not know that.
she's one of the punks in this film, and the great thing about the two punks is like that they have Cockney accents and they're really kind of nasty characters, but they're called Isabel and Enid. I mean, who's ever heard of a punk called Enid?
There was Mary the punk, wasn't there, in EastEnders?
Sorry?
Spray paint can, Enid.
There was Mary the punk, wasn't there, in EastEnders? Yeah.
And then the film's also hampered with a not very talented child actress as well in it. But overall, I thought it was kind of a fun movie.
Okay, I haven't seen Dolls.
Never, no.
Never?
So. No.
I love Dolls. I think it's
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, it was one I shall add to check
You
out.
would like it, Justin, because it's. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a slasher movie. It's close enough. I mean, like a motley crew of people end up at this mansion and start getting killed off one by one.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what it's like when there's certain films that you've seen lots of films, and there's just kind of certain films that you've kind of not key films, but films that everyone else has seen, you've just not seen.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Actually, I have just borrowed one film that I think I'm the only person in the world who hasn't seen, and that is, drum roll, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
No.
Wow.
I borrowed it off my significant other. I'm not convinced. I've seen I've seen the start of it, I think, and I remember not being impressed and just not bothering with the rest of the film. So that was about 20 years ago. So time to give it another try, I think.
Yeah, but it's a film that's kind of quite kind of cool, I guess, to dislike in a lot, because it's had this cult around it for so many years. But I do love it. I think it's a film I kind of watch every year or every other year.
Well, that's because you like dressing up as a lady. I'm not interested in dressing up as a lady. So
Well, I watch it every year too, and I don't dress up as a lady.
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the movie's trying to work on me with that, but it hasn't happened yet. But the movie is so entertaining, and it's got great songs. I've got the whole soundtrack. I listened to it at work, actually, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And Erik, you're giving people the wrong idea. I only dressed up as a lady a couple of times for New Year's Eve. It's not like I do it every weekend.
You were dressing up as Agnetha from ABBA recently.
Yeah, that didn't happen, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's still on the schedule, is it?
Agnetha, you mean?
Agnetha.
Agnetha. Yeah, well, that's still on the... What I was going to do is shave off half my beard and go as half and half.
Oh,
Benny.
Benny and Agnetha. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Are you going to sing any ABBA songs?
Well, we did these people's wedding. We did a mime, Waterloo.
You ruined their wedding.
Yeah, well, it was a special surprise.
Oh, yeah,
it was an ABBA wedding. Like, everyone was dressed as ABBA.
Oh,
so
you have the weirdest friends.
Yeah, well,
Not
actually,
anymore.
I know somebody who's going to have a Muppet wedding. So
What?
somebody I know is considering having a Muppet wedding.
Well, that's cool.
Speaking of weddings, and I'm sorry we're getting off on this tangent, but Nathan and I went to Grant's wedding, and basically we sat there for like 35 to 40 minutes, basically waiting on the bride to come in. And there was one point where I just said, you know what, if they'd get this show on the road, I'd marry Greg just to hurry it up.
Did she turn up in the end?
Yeah, she did.
Okay. So, right. Well, Erik, anything else?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. I've just got a couple of things. We've already talked about a number of the ones I had on the list, but just a couple that we haven't talked about. And just talking about child actors. One of the films that, again, everyone else has seen and I hadn't seen up until this point, although I did have a videotape of it and I had to try and watch it, but it's... back in the day, or even these days, you find a videotape and you put it in, and it's been through the mills, and it's basically more snow than picture, and then it eventually chewed up after about 2 minutes. Was the Stephen King adaptation of Silver Bullet with Corey Haim in a wheelchair?
Yeah,
love it.
You love it?
Yes,
I like it too.
I didn't think it was very good, actually. I think partly because I haven't got the fact that I hadn't seen it before, so I watched it fresh. So there wasn't really that element of nostalgia there. But I didn't think it was. I thought the monster effects were pretty rubbish, which apparently is quite well documented. I didn't think they were very good. It was entertaining, but I didn't. It's not in the same caliber as The Howling or An American Werewolf in London or anything like that. I didn't think it was particularly good. I don't think Stephen King's films are particularly good when he's got a hand in them. He's a better writer than he is as a director or anyone who's involved. He wrote the screenplay for it, but I wasn't. It was an entertaining way to pass 90 minutes, but I didn't think it was very good.
See, I never thought the effects in Silver Bullet were bad. I thought the werewolf, the actual look of the werewolf, looked more like a bear, but I thought the actual transformations were actually pretty good. I guess maybe it's a nostalgia thing for me, but I've always loved Silver Bullet. I think it's really entertaining.
I like it too, but I don't have any nostalgic attachment to it because I didn't see this film until maybe 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. But
Okay.
obviously I'm a Corey enthusiast, so I'm going to like it anyway. I'm biased.
I mean, he was great in it. I mean, he's a very amiable kind of child actor, and his sister was good in it. But I thought it played it a little bit too much for laughs. It didn't, I didn't really have much menace to it. Although I thought the person who played the werewolf, without giving away who it is, was very good in the role and was quite kind of menacing. But I don't know. It was fun way to pass 90 minutes, but it just wasn't. I didn't think it. It's not a film I'm going to return to in the same way as I'd watch The Howling on American Werewolf in London again. I think it's very minor film compared to those. If I'm honest, and as far as 80s werewolf films go.
I'll be controversial and say it's actually my favorite werewolf film.
Really?
Ooh, that is controversial.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Well, what about
I
Nathan?
think I heard a dog just growling.
You did. Axel's asleep, so he growled because I guess he's trying to mimic being a werewolf.
Can I ask you guys, what's your favorite Houseboat movie?
Houseboat Horror.
Yeah, I think that's mine too.
Overboard.
That's not a houseboat. That's a ship.
They
a
live
yacht.
in it. They live in it, so it's a house.
It's not technically a houseboat though, so you have to pick Houseboat Horror.
Yeah.
Isn't there a houseboat in the remake of Cape Fear?
Yeah,
Oh yes, there are houseboats in Cape Fear.
I still prefer Houseboat Horror though.
No.
Well, Nathan, what do you think of Silver Bullet?
I really like it. I think it's great. I probably have the nostalgia factor too, but I understand what Justin's saying because there's some movies that people rave about, but if I didn't see them when I was a kid, I just don't get it. Like The Goonies, I don't get it. I watched it as an adult and I did not really care for it, but everybody I know just loves that movie. I think it's a nostalgia thing.
I think one of the weird things about Silver Bullet is that it has that kind of weird. The person I was watching it with was saying, "Is this a kids' movie or is it a horror movie?" Because it has a kind of quite an odd mix, which I know Stephen King novels quite often do. They quite often have children in them, but with this one, a lot of the film felt like a film made for early teenagers or sort of younger kids. But then you had all the gore and the kind of adult themes as well. So it was kind of a bit of a weird mixture. But yeah, so that was that. The other film I'll just mention very quickly because I know we're running on, was another film which I wasn't particularly enamoured with, and it's one that I'd forgotten that Erik had mentioned, which was In Fear, which is another. I don't know if it's British, but it was made in Ireland, wasn't it?
It was actually. I think we had a Q&A with the director after it was screened at Horathon, and I think it was actually filmed in the UK as well, but set in Ireland.
Okay,
with Irish cast. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's the Eric's talked about this before, but very briefly, it starts off really well. It's a couple who've only just been going out for a couple of weeks, heading for a music festival, and they make he kind of basically treats her by saying they're going to go and stay in a hotel before they go to the music festival out in the middle of the countryside, and they get lost in this kind of maze of lanes, and then they start getting terrorized by someone or some people, and who was that?
That's still the dog.
That's the dog.
It sounds like he's laughing.
Sleeping.
Yeah, it sounds like he's laughing.
He's dreaming about something funny.
But yeah, it starts off really well and quite menacing, but when you actually realise what it is, it's quite ludicrous and not in a good way. It just doesn't. Yeah, it wasn't very good. I mean, the thing that surprised me actually was that I blind bought it because I was in the supermarket and it was on sale for like £7 or £8. So it wasn't very expensive.
Spanish supermarket.
It wasn't a Spanish supermarket, not this time. And on the DVD cover, it was all these kind of amazing quotes from people going, "This is the best film I've ever seen in my life," or kind of, 5 out of 5. This is incredible. The best British horror movie for 10 years. And I was watching it thinking, this doesn't, I don't understand where that's coming from. But I should have listened to our Erik, because
Yes.
you warned us, didn't you? And I forgot.
I did, because as with you, I was with it for the first half hour. I thought it was really creepy and menacing, and it looked like it was going to be have a supernatural tinge to it. And then it turns into something else, and it just bored the hell out of me for the last bit. But like you, I mean, it opened the film festival last October and had so much good, blurb on within the program. It was like, this is the most terrifying film ever, the greatest British film in years, and I think everyone thought it was a bit of a damp squib. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's odd. I don't understand. Yeah, it just kind of turned into a very weak, basically the Hitcher, wasn't it? Really?
Yes, yeah, but that spoiling. Well, it's not really a spoiler because this happens halfway through. It turns into the Hitcher basically, and not a very good version of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually make any sense about how it happened, or how it does. It kind of just throws logic completely out the window, doesn't it?
Yes,
about halfway through, and you're
much.
thinking, and that where you get those films where you can think, well, I'm suspending disbelief, because the whole point of watching a movie is you suspend disbelief. Even with the most realistic movie, it's still a movie, so you're suspending disbelief regardless of what you're watching. But with this, it just kind of became annoying. With that, it broke that wall, didn't it? I couldn't stay with it because it was. Well, I watched it to the end, but I couldn't stay. I always try and watch films with an optimistic bent. Do you know what I mean? Always to try and look for the best in a film, even Houseboat horror. And I looked and looked, but with this, it just kind of wore out my goodwill, and so I just couldn't really understand, what film these other people have been watching. But again, I guess that's why we're all different, isn't it? So yes.
So it's gone up on eBay already, has it?
No, but it probably will do quite soon, I think. Yeah, so that is our recently seen, which is a bit longer than normal.
We missed something.
Have we?
Justin did review Night Before Easter, but I know Erik saw it too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so the viewers need to hear.
Yeah, well, Justin's review hasn't been published yet either, has it?
Oh, okay. Then Justin, they need to hear a very, very short synopsis of your review.
No, my review has been published.
Oh, has it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it has been published. It's just I just haven't done the latest update on. It's up on the website. I've linked to it through Facebook and put the
sorry.
So Erik, it's all over to you now.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I love the character of Melissa. Is it Melissa? Is the bitch character?
Yes, she's the bitch.
She's great. And there's my favorite scene in the movie is where she confronts Kelly, and she does all these sort of mannerisms with her fingers and stuff that I thought were great. Where she says, "Okay, let's go in there and have a talk."
Yeah.
I love that bit. I thought there was some of the gore effects were really good. Somebody gets their throat slit, which was very gory, and the head in the. Is this a spoiler? The head in the.
I mean, it's not really a spoiler. They don't know whose head.
Yeah, head in the cooler box. I thought was great. Was good. I'm just trying to think because it's about 4 weeks now since I watched it, because we watched it just shortly after we did the last podcast. I didn't guess the killer's identity, but then I'm always rubbish at doing that anyway. So
wow.
Yeah. Why am I the only one?
Well, it's just I'm not going to spoil it, but basically I'll just say logistical reasons. It kind of becomes obvious who the murderer is, but that's all I'll say. That's all.
I liked is she one of the lead actresses? April Sinclair, I think is her name, and she looks really she looks like somebody else famous, but I can't pinpoint who it is. Do you know? Like whenever she's on screen, I was like, oh, she looks like somebody, but who is it?
I don't know.
All right, I thought she was great in it. I thought she'd be my favorite actress in the movie. Well, apart from Melissa, I'd have to say, I thought was great fun. She had some great lines.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Now, who was your least favorite character? Because I'm very curious about this, because everybody seems to be picking the same one.
Okay. Let me think.
And that's you too, Justin.
Well, I liked the one who has the alcohol problem. Was that based on Justin?
Yeah. I thought about him when we.
Yeah, you should have called her character Justine.
Yeah, it should have been Justine. Yeah.
My least favorite character. Would it be unfair to say Kelly? Is that what people?
That's
are saying?
what everybody's saying. Yeah, everybody's saying her.
I would probably say Kelly, not necessarily because of the actress, but the whole motivation, her backstory and stuff. It's a bit of a whiny.
Yeah,
a bit whiny. That's exactly what everybody else.
And she's trying to steal someone else's boyfriend. Was she based on Justin as well?
Oh,
Erik.
Yeah. Oh no, my favorite. You know who my favorite character is? It's the newsreader.
Oh yes, Biff Bakeman.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
who was that?
We missed an opportunity too.
Where did you get that camp man from? Who was he?
It's not camp. He's Butch.
Just some guy.
Yeah,
just some guy.
And could you tell by the sound of his voice that he's a fantastic arse?
No.
And a huge wang as well.
No, I thought he was doing, because he had a bit of a lisp and he was a bit camp, I thought he was doing a Toya impression.
Well, he wasn't. I imagine he's really sexy, whoever he is.
Yeah.
Well, another guy got murdered after writing a tell-all book.
Yeah, I know.
That was shocking.
That Nancy, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I think this one will run and run, won't it?
Yeah.
I did want to say... Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, I was going to say I loved your cameo, Nathan, and Joseph's as well, behind the mask at the very start. It was very funny.
That was great.
And your designer T-shirt, which is just a white T-shirt.
It's from Nobel of Paris.
Can I ask a question? Why? Because I liked it, but why that you had that kind of almost the old film thing of the black edges, slightly faded edges? What was the thought behind that?
Through the whole film? Oh, it's just basically the raw footage we had. It's really dull and kind of gray, and when I color corrected it, adding that kind of what's it called? Like a low, kind of a saturation, kind of brought out the colors a little more when I added the other colors. So that's why that was put in there.
Okay. No, I just sort of wondered if it was a stylistic or
Yeah, pretty much. Just to kind of give the colors more oomph.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, we urge everyone to check out The Night Before Easter. Mm-hmm. What's the worst that could happen?
Do I have to watch it again?
No, not you. No, but everyone else.
You have to watch it at least one more time, Joseph.
Yeah,
on the big screen. Come on, it's going to be.
Yeah. By the way, when I interviewed Russell Todd for for Chopping Mall and Friday the 13th Part 2, I asked him if he gets residuals for every DVD sold of Friday the 13th Part 2, and he said yes. So, do you have my address for the checks for Night Before Easter?
I sent you a penny in the mail, but it said please send to Justin. So
I haven't got it yet.
He's going to get the penny, and you're not.
Oh,
because he has FaceTime and you don't.
Yes,
I have FaceTime.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
What?
They don't see you in the film; they just hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, I think you meant on the iPhone. I was like, what's that all about? But no, Justin's just a still image that you've taken off Facebook. That's not fair.
Eric, I haven't got any money from it.
If you really want the penny, I'll dig one up.
I do want that penny.
Eric, I haven't had any money from it.
That's pretty much what we spent on the movie, so...
Yeah.
Thanks for taking our profits back.
Yeah, Justin.
Right, okay. Well, let's move on from The Night Before Easter to another film. And I'm slightly trepidatious. Is that a word? It is a word, isn't it?
Yes.
To move on to this. But here we have the 1989 Australian film, Houseboat Horror.
All right, guys. Something is about to happen on Lake Infinity, a new reign of terror. The zany hype associated with sex, drugs, and rock and roll stimulates a group of nutty city musicians to get away from it all. As they seduce the chicks and produce beautiful music at a paradise hideaway, death rocks in, and the wild sounds of rock music unleash Acid Head, the horror of Lake Infinity. With gory calculation, the making of an energy-packed, fun-loaded rock video becomes a smorgasbord of horror, death, and blood-gushing mayhem. Houseboat Horror is Australia's first made-for-video horror spectacular and features many famous faces from the country's top television soapies. Personally, I didn't recognize anybody in the movie. And it also has Knockout, Brian Manick's song hits. Okay, Knockout. I'll go with that.
Me too.
Personally, Houseboat Horror was one of those films that, years ago, I'd always hear about, but it was very rare to find. You couldn't find it anywhere. I don't remember how Joseph and I even finally found a copy of it. I really don't. I know we did eventually because I remember watching it on VHS. But it's got a big body count, so I have to give it that. And I actually thought some of the death scenes were, pretty well done. I liked the knife stabbing through the one girl's throat, and I like the horseshoe death scene. I mean, it's kind of an original murder weapon to get killed with a horseshoe. And I love the one guy getting his head split open with the machete, you know, kind of like his head's made of watermelon. I thought that was a very, very like fun death sequence. And, you know, the characters in the movie, I mean, they obviously all care about each other because when one guy's getting attacked and killed, everybody else is just trying to get off the boat instead of helping him. And that seems to be the way it goes. I mean, you know, it's all self-preservation. I think the movie itself was trying to say something about when people are afraid, their need for self-preservation goes above helping others. So I think there's actually a lot of intelligence underlying the film. What was that?
Nothing.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, there is something there, like something more than just a slasher movie to this movie, I have to say. You know, and and like I said, it's got a great body count. So, I mean, you can't say it doesn't have a good body count, you know, and it's got some, like it says right up front, you know, producing beautiful music. So, I mean, it's like got a lot of music in it too. So if you like music and slasher movies with big body counts, what's there to hate? Right? And let's see what Erik has to say about that.
Well, I'm with you on the beautiful music because the music is my favorite part of the movie. Probably not for the reasons they intended. I thought that the film, going into it, and I saw this first maybe 10 years ago, courtesy of Mr. Justin, who sent me a copy. It has the potential to be a Pieces or a Bloody Moon, because it has that trashiest of setups, which is this really naff rock band going to this really unglamorous location to shoot their latest video. And I love how unglamorous the Houseboat is, despite the fact that the girls wander around going, oh, this is so luxurious or something. I mean, it just looks like a prefabricated building stuck in the middle of a sort of rather bland-looking lake on an overcast day. And even though the film has the slimmest of running times, 81 minutes, it does kind of begin to feel like an eternity, I thought. The thing is, it doesn't start off too badly. The hitchhiker that they pick up on the way to the video shoot, she goes to meet her boyfriend who's camping out in the woods. She finds him dead. She runs off and then gets killed herself. That's not a bad start. And it looks like it's going to be a decent enough watch, but that doesn't turn out to be the case for me because, as with several films we've discussed in the past, there are too many characters in Houseboat Horror, and it's very hard to keep up with who's who in the film. You know, so I'm with it for about 20 minutes. Okay, that's that person, she's going out with him, blah, 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 blah. But then I begin to lose my way after that, and I begin to sort of glaze over and just lose interest in the film. I mean, I obviously recognize Alan Dale, who plays the director, because he was in Neighbours, and I was a big fan of Neighbours. I was such a big fan of Neighbours, and now, Justin, feel free to laugh at me because I deserve to be laughed at for this, but in 1986, I think, during the summer, BBC used to show Neighbours at lunchtime, which means I could only see it during my summer holidays, really. So I was part of a letter-writing campaign to Points of View to get them to show it at a time that would suit youngsters like myself. That's how sad and horrible my childhood was.
That is quite pitiful.
It is, and I'm kind of ashamed. I mean, it takes a lot for me to feel shame, as you know. But that
yes,
yeah.
Obviously, Nathan knows no shame by his glowing recommendation of this movie. But
I just have great taste.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the annoying drummer Animal, obviously I recognised as well because, well, he's just so annoying that he stands out a country mile in the film. And then the guy with the scrunchy face and the mullet, I think you describe him as having Marty Feldman eyes in your review, Justin. He's, you know, you recognise who he is, but the rest of them just all sort of blend together, and there's just so many characters that by the time the killings start, you don't know who's who, really. As I said, I do like the musical interludes. Young, Cool and Groovy is, you know, possibly one of the worst songs I've ever heard, but I love it. I love listening to it. You know, I can't explain why, but I think it's just fantastic. It's like the production on it is awful, as well as having really incredibly bad lyrics and that. I like the way that the whole film reinforces the Australian male stereotype because everyone has a can of beer in their hand, and you know, throughout the movie for the full 81 minutes, somebody somewhere will have a can of beer, but you know, it's too tedious because you don't know who's who. They should have cut the cast in half. Well, not literally, like they did with Alan Dale's head. He gets the best death scene. Actually, the effects, as Nathan was saying, the effects aren't too bad for what I assume was quite a low-budget film. And I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the worst film I've seen, because there's moments in it that I do like, particularly the sort of trashy pop video stuff that they have, permeating through it. And I did find it more fun than Bloody Murder, which we reviewed on the last show, which is not exactly a ringing endorsement, I know. But and in terms of shot on video movies, of the ones I've seen, this is probably better than something like Spine, but I don't think it's as good as Boarding House, because I can see myself watching Boarding House again in the future, because it was such an insane movie that there's quite a lot to get out of Boarding House, whereas with Houseboat Horror, it's not bizarre or imaginative enough, to hold my attention. And unfortunately, I can't see myself going back to it very often in the near future, if ever, in fact. So, Houseboat Horror out of 10, maybe a 3. Sorry, Nathan.
No, it's okay, because I agree with you that Boarding House is better. And I will say that I think Joseph will as well. Joseph?
Yes.
And now over to Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
But I think Joseph, what were you? I'm interested in what Joseph thinks.
So you want me to go first?
Well, I think because you gave a one-word review.
Yeah.
It was a. Okay, Houseboat Horror. I think it's a better idea than it is an actual movie. I appreciate, for such a low budget, they pulled off some of the effects rather well. But like Erik said, there are so many characters, and it's just so tedious, and it just takes forever. And it's not a very long movie at all, but it just feels like you're sitting there for decades and decades. And this is the type of movie where poor Alan Dale, he looks like, he looks horrified. Like he's like, I really need to pay my utility bill this month, so I hope the check clears. I liked a lot of the rock music stuff, and the whole idea of them filming this rock video or movie or whatever it was, and then this bald-headed loon just comes in and starts killing them off. It's a good idea, but it's a type of idea that needs better pacing, a higher budget, better actors. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with Erik, I guess. It's not the worst shot-on-video film I've ever seen, but, it's not necessarily a ringing endorsement. God, I guess I'll give it a marginal pass on a shot-on-video level. If you like shot-on-video films, you could do a lot worse. But as for a movie, I'd give it a miss. It's kind of I'm on the fence with it. Like, I can't recommend it to people who like slasher films, but I can to people who like just really dodgy crap. So there you go.
Justin.
Nathan, you always sound very...
He sounds very depressed after that review.
Yeah, when someone doesn't agree with you.
You guys hate all my movies.
Well, it's not really you. I mean, it's not really even your pick. It's Kate's. He should be the one crying.
But now I do really like it, though.
See, this is where I take issue, because I said when I reviewed this before, because this was a film that I had heard about. It's one of these kind of the lost kind of slashers, and back in the days before Baby Jesus and kind of being able to buy whatever you want from on the internet. It was kind of this film. It was just hushed tones. You didn't heard about this film. Heard it was supposed to be awful, but it was kind of a film that I really wanted to see. And when I eventually got it, and I think it was John Kleiser who does the retro slashers, isn't it? I think he's behind retro slashers. He sent me a copy of it, which I was very grateful to him until I watched it. And then I said in my review, I was it would be preferable to, I felt like sticking 2 pencils up my nose, sharpening 2 pencils, sticking in my nose, and headbutting a desk. And I haven't really warmed to it since. I mean, to be honest, it's like a lot of these movies, the movies I really hated and I reviewed very negatively on Hysteria Lives. When I've rewatched them for the podcast, I tend to warm to them a lot. Which you would admit, wouldn't you, Nathan? Like Slaughter University, and I even found
Splatter.
something to like in that.
Splatter University.
Splatter University. But
yes, I can't wait for you to change your star rating on it to 5.
Well, that's never going to happen. But Houseboat Horror, I found, I don't know, I still found it a chore. I did like Joseph. It picks up briefly towards in the last 5 or 10 minutes, and it builds something in the way of tension. But the rest of the movie it plods. I think the characters are all pretty unlikable. Like Erik says, you've just got the real stereotype of the Australian male, of kind of that kind of, one of the characters says, "I just don't care. I don't care about anything. I just do basically whatever makes me feel good. I don't care about anything else." And it was just that whole thing. And obviously they're a rock group, and they're making a video and stuff, and they're all going to be slightly have that kind of libertine bent to them, but they're just kind of unlikable characters that are but played in a kind of quite buffoonish kind of way. But it don't really warm to any of them. There's just too many characters that I just didn't really, I kind of lost track of who was who. And it was, it spent a bit too much time on their buffoonery and not enough time on the slashing. And when the slashing happened, I'll give the film its due. It's got some good kills in it. The gore, when you actually see gore, is good. There's quite often it's just like literally throwing blood at a wall. That old cliche of someone just chucking a cup of red food dye at a wall, and that's all you see. But when you do see some gore, including the killing of Alan Dale, which again, not his high point probably of his career, but having his head chopped in half is quite effective, and some of the gore effects, when you actually do see them, are pretty well done. I don't know, I just kind of, it to me, it felt like an in-joke. It felt like a group of friends getting together to make a movie, and they were laughing at their own in-jokes, and it just was, which it just. It's certainly, I do believe it is the worst Australian slasher movie. I think that is a well-earned title, because it is, anyone who's got any interest, like Joseph was saying, in slasher movies, it's not a good slasher movie. It's a bad movie. It's not, in a lot of ways, it's not bad enough to be entertaining. It's just bad, and it does drag as well, which I think is the biggest problem with any slasher movie, with any movie, regardless if it's a horror movie or not, is to be boring. And I think, given all its cheesiness and its goofiness and its goriness, it still actually managed to be quite boring in certain patches. And I think that's ultimately its biggest failing. So I must admit, I found it watching this time difficult to keep my attention. It wasn't, I've reassessed some of the charms of films like Splatter University, but I just can't really warm to Houseboat Horror. That's sorry, Nathan.
No, it's fair enough, I have to say. And I will say this, that throwing a cup of fake blood on a wall for a film is a lot more difficult than people think it is. We tried that several times in our film, and we couldn't quite get it to work.
But I imagine making sort of gore effects a bit more difficult, aren't they? A bit more time consuming.
Well, we had somebody doing that for us, so
yeah, okay.
The
thing is, it was
a problem. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it was kind of they did it once, and they did it twice, and it was like 3 or 4 times they did this kind of same kind of cheap, the cheap way of doing stuff, and I think that it's but we'll come on to the making of the film, and it probably explains some of the background why it is what it is. But I think for people who are slasher completists, and I think quite a few people like we are, we all kind of want to see anything, especially older films, but that we want to see them regardless of how good or bad they are. So if you're a slasher completist, it's worth a watch, because it was so rare. I think it is out on DVD now, but I don't know if it's out on DVD in Australia or for a long time it was very, very rare. But yeah, I think it's one step above kind of an amateur movie, really, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah,
a couple of things. the problem with throwing the blood is it really is a budgetary thing. So I can understand, them having to do that if they didn't have the budget. But going back to the movie itself, one of my biggest problems, Justin was talking about how the characters are unlikable. I would agree with that, but I think more than unlikable, they just kind of stand there waiting on their cues. Like, are we supposed to be doing anything in this scene, or are we just standing here? And there's long stretches of like all of them huddled together, and they're just standing there waiting for something to happen, or waiting for the director to say, okay, now you move over here and talk to this person. And it just goes on and on and on like that.
Mm.
What got me the most was that the band themselves are the most unlikable characters in the film. And
they are.
And spoiler alert, they disappear from the plot sort of maybe an hour into it, and then they reappear at the end, but you don't actually, like, they're obviously doomed, but you don't see them getting killed. And I wanted to see that drummer have his head chopped off because he was really annoying me.
Well,
they were the biggest... Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Well, no, especially after seeing him fisting that bongo.
Yeah.
They were the biggest idiots, too, because I love at the end when they're talking to the, the creepy woman. And, they just don't get the vibe that she's being very weird and ominous. It's like, they're like, oh, you can use your phone. And she's just like, yes, we'll go to the barn first. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, okay. the stupidity that they have is astounding.
I like the budget for the wardrobe budget for the woman, the creepy woman. Is basically, she looks like she came from like a high school play set around Amish country, and she had that flat kind of poodle hairstyle, and then she's dressed like an old like reserved Amish woman, and she just has these like blank stares. It really looked like a high school like someone left over from a high school production down the street. They're like, well, we need someone in the role, so we'll just go scout the high schools or something.
And she speaks like Angela's crazy aunt in Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
Kept expecting to hear her say, I believe there's a whole bag.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the not problems, but it could have been one of the benefits of the film. But it apes the kind of the American slasher movie so much. In so much, he starts with a hitchhiker being murdered. The killer is basically this man who's grown up. He was a child that was burnt in this accident that killed some on a movie set some years before. But he's grown up, so basically he's an amalgam of the killer of like Cropsey, the killer from Honeymoon Horror, and The Prey, isn't he? Basically, all these together. Basically, he's a burnt killer with a machete. And then you've got obviously you got all of the stalking and the slashing and stuff, but there's no real tension, and the trouble is there's no wit to the film either. There's no there's humour, but it's witless. So it's not parodying the slasher movie. It's and it's not making a good enough slasher movie to make it a good slasher movie. So it just falls in between. It just falls a bit flat. I think that's its biggest problem. If it had been funnier, or there'd been any kind of wink. I mean, it's winking, at itself, and the cast is kind of like very much tongue in cheek, but it's not, it's not funny. Maybe that's because we're not Australian. Maybe it's hilarious to Australians. I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Well, I mean, does anybody else have anything to say about the wonderful Houseboat Horror?
I like Cave Gaplin's his Australian accent. Houseboat Horror.
Yeah.
I liked it when he said
Crikey,
about...
that was bad.
I liked it when he said about G'day is going to turn to G'day.
G'day.
That was a great...
awesome.
It would be a great tagline, wouldn't
I
it, from
think Cave
Australia?
should remake the movie.
I know, it's more clever than anything in the film.
Yeah.
And I actually liked it, so, that's
But did
bad
you
that I'm
not
insulting it
have
that
problems keeping track of who was who?
I did have problems with that. I mean, mainly the ones I remember is, Alan Dale, who gets his head split. I mean, I knew him throughout the movie. But a lot of the blondes with the permed hair, like, they all looked alike. So, yes. I mean, one would get killed, and then another one would pop up later, and I'm like, I thought she was dead.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's the same experience I had.
Alan Dale is Evans, the director, and it was funny as I was watching it, and it's like they point to him, and they're like, "Who? Which one?" They're like, "Evans. He's over there in the jacket," and they all wear the same like the beige jacket. There's like 4 guys have the same hairstyle and the same jacket, and they're all standing like huddled together. And I was like, I kind of thought I found that was humorous.
One thing I have to say though is that when I first heard about Houseboat Horror, I was a little disappointed in one aspect of the movie, that the houseboat is kind of docked for most of the movie, and they just are getting killed off on the land around it. I wanted the houseboat to be like in the middle of the water and like people getting picked off one by one on the houseboat.
Mm. I did like when they do at right the end.
Have the budget for gas to take it out in the middle of the water.
Did you like when the final girl and the final boy? I guess they were the two left standing, and they get in the houseboat to make a quick getaway, and the killer's running down towards the shore, and they're going, and they're literally it's like. It's like moving at like 2 miles an hour, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, a houseboat is not a fast vehicle, I don't think.
No. They should just make the movie called Horror.
It was like
Speed 2.
It was like Speed 2, exactly, which is the least speedy kind of.
I want to see Speed 3, Glacier of Doom.
Well, one of the things that I also thought was weird about the film was the guy goes into a separate room to put on his rubber.
That was odd, wasn't it?
Yes.
They do that in movies all the time. Like they're like, put on a condom. And he's like, all right, I'll be right back. And they go into the bathroom. Who does that?
Yes. Bizarre.
Only in movies.
Yes.
I did like the way he was harpooned through the back and then he just hangs in the doorway, presumably with his rubber on.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. His poor
I
parents.
like when they saw the... what was it, like the blood on the houseboat or whatever it was, and the girl screams, and the guys come out, and one guy goes, "What asshole did that?"
Yep. I think they say arsehole, actually.
Oh, the arsehole, yeah.
Because they're kind of anglicized there, yeah.
But literally, I've seen like one episode of Neighbors like on YouTube a long time ago. Was it like a phenomenon in Australia?
Not in Australia.
Sure, yeah, in the UK it was huge.
Because there are moments where Alan Dale is just standing there, and he really has that look like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Well, let me ask you this, Eric, since I'm not, big on Neighbors because I never saw it. Did it have the campy aspect of Dynasty?
No, it wasn't as over the top, but it was. But it was stupid still.
Okay,
Alan Dale played Kylie Minogue's father-in-law on it.
Did they have like a Crystal and Alexis?
Not really, no.
They have. It's set in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So it tells you how exciting it is.
Well,
it's
Knots Landing. Knots Landing was set in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but.
Yeah, no. Neighbours had storylines like there was a cliffhanger one time where Scott Robinson, who would have been Alan Dale's son, fell off a cliff, and then that was the cliffhanger for the day. And then the next day, he arrives in with a broken wrist back into the house.
That's awesome.
That's how they used to resolve.
How was this? He's like. I bet he was jitterbugging that very night.
Yeah, probably was.
Fell 8,000 feet into a pile of jagged rocks.
Yeah.
But I don't think Neighbours wasn't ever. It was basically really popular in Britain. I don't think it was ever that popular in Australia. People in Australia don't ever admit to watching Neighbours or Home and Away. As far as I'm aware, is it still going? Neighbours?
I think it
Yeah.
still is.
And it's now it has that shot on film look, like a lot of other soaps. But back in the day, it was shot on video look, much similar to Houseboat Horror.
Well, let's talk about Alan Dale, because Alan Dale went from, this is his movie debut, but he went on to be in some very big Hollywood movies, didn't he?
Yeah, well, the thing I read is that he was scared of being typecast because Jim Robinson in Neighbours was such a goody two-shoes character. And I'm thinking this is the only thing that could have prompted him to take part in Houseboat Horror was the opportunity to say swear words and to get into bed with a topless chick.
No, I think you're probably right. I mean, I don't know what kind of background you've got for the movie, but just one thing I'd say is that apparently, I mean, there's the Australian audiences, the faces would be a lot more familiar, but they were all, practically everyone in it was from a soap opera. They're all like soap operas like Sons and Daughters and The Flying Doctors and all sorts of things, and Neighbours and lots of other things. But apparently they all took 2 weeks off, as holiday to make this for free.
Oh dear. Imagine spending your annual leave on Houseboat Horror.
No, exactly. So Alan Dale
precious annual leave. Yeah.
When did? Because Alan Dale presumably was in Neighbours when he made this. Because I think
he was in Neighbours up until 1993, apparently.
Yeah, because there's a bit of a question mark about when this was actually made, because it's not. It was made sometime between 1986 and 1988.
All right.
So it wasn't made in 1989. I think it probably was filmed in 87. Is my understanding, but
looks kind of like an 87 movie.
Yeah. What kind of background, Nathan? Is it your kind of pick? Have you got any background on it?
Alan Dale was in Neighbours.
Oh, okay.
That's all I've got.
Right. Excellent. Well, what about you, Joseph?
Well, basically, Alan Dale. We do know he was in Neighbours, but he also went on to have a recurring role in Lost. And there's kind of a running joke on the internet about Alan Dale. He came on at the end of season 2, and he lasted, all throughout till the very end of the show. He wasn't a main character, but he's kind of recurring. But somebody interviewed him about his role in Lost, and he's actually really, really good on Lost as an aside. But anyway, someone interviewed him about his involvement with Lost, and he's like, I think the writers, have a lot of talent, but they take too long to resolve a lot of their mysteries. So, I was reading some of the scripts and watching some of the dailies, and I was like, I was confounded where this is going to go. And so someone came up with like an internet joke where people will ask Alan Dale about specific movies that he was in or anything, and someone on one of the Lost forums like, I wonder if anyone's ever seen his movie Houseboat Horror, and how he would answer that. Basically, Alan Dale, what do you think about watching the dailies for Houseboat Horror? And they just gave all these examples of what he would say about Houseboat Horror. But I think that's pretty much it as far as background.
I don't remember him in Lost.
He played Charles Widmore. He played Penny's father, Desmond's girlfriend.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
But basically, that's all. That's pretty much all I have. I mean, I think that how I eventually saw Houseboat Horror was that it landed on eBay for like an obscene price, and I think maybe we split the cost of it, and then we got
it.
Maybe
that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I regret that. Actually, I really wish. I really wish we still had that, because those VHS would probably sell for like a high price. Because somebody out there would be like, well, they don't make them anymore and it's rare, so it would fetch a pretty penny. But no, I don't look back with fondness spending an obscene amount of money just to see this movie. So,
well, it would fetch a penny. I'm not sure about a pretty penny though.
It'd fetch Eric's penny that he's going to get for the night before Easter.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, thank you, Joseph. How about you, Eric? Have you got anything?
Well, just a few bits and pieces. Alan Dale was in Neighbours.
He played a cockroach. What turns into a cockroach?
No, he also went on to have a movie career as well. I mean, he doesn't play. He's not a leading man or anything, but he gets pretty substantial supporting roles in things like Star Trek Nemesis, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Priest. On TV, he also had a prominent role on 24 and Ugly Betty and Entourage as well. So he's carved a good career for himself from the humblest of beginnings in Neighbours and Houseboat Horror. It was filmed at Lake Eildon in Victoria in Australia. The IMDb lists Christopher Young as one of the actors in it, who plays a character called Norm. And for the life of me, I can't work out who Norm is in the film. But according to IMDb, it's the same Christopher Young who scored Hellraiser and has gone on to be a huge cinema composer. And I don't know how true that is. I'm imagining it must be an IMDb error, because for starters, I don't think Christopher Young is Australian. Did you come across that factoid as well, Justin?
I didn't know.
All right. Well, I couldn't find anything to back up that theory that the IMDb has put forth there. So, speaking of the score,
it has to be true, Eric, because the IMDb said you're Inga, so it has to be.
Yes.
The IMDb lies. I'm not Inga. Not. Speaking of score to the movie, did anyone notice how similar it was to Day of the Dead? Justin, will you play the clip?
Oh, yes. Let me get...
dinkum.
See, total rip-off. A total rip-off the Day of the Dead score. I'm not actually joking that time. It actually was identical. Animal, who plays the annoying drummer, he's credited just as Animal on the film, but his real name is Des McKenna, which is less sexy. He was the drummer in a house band for an Australian TV show, which apparently was huge in the 70s and 80s on Australian television, called Hey Hey It's Saturday. And apparently he had kind of a cult following at the time. Keeping with the music, Brian Mannix wrote how was it described in the back of the video sleeve again? The epic songs or...
Knockout.
The Knockout,
yeah.
That's it. Young, Cool and Groovy. He was the lead singer of a band who apparently were pretty big in Australia in the 80s called the Uncanny X-Men, but they didn't. I don't think they did anything sort of in our neck of the woods. The director, Kendall Flanagan, he's one of two directors in the film. He had a history of directing successful Australian TV soaps such as Young Doctors, Prisoner Cell Block H and Neighbours. And I'm assuming he, from working with Alan Dale, who was in the Young Doctors, or was it the Flying Doctors? I can't remember.
Was he in the Neighbours as well?
And Neighbours, yeah. He was in. Alan Dale was in Neighbours. Did you know that, Justin?
No. Was he? Which one was
I'm
he?
assuming that the director, Kendall Flanagan, having worked with Alan Dale, I'm assuming on some of those soap operas, had blackmail material on him, perhaps.
Yes,
and that's how he got him to get involved in Houseboat Horror. And that's about all I have, I think, yeah. Sorry.
Eric, I hate to interrupt this whole thing, but do you have a joke of the week?
Oh, I do have a joke of the week.
Oh, can we do that now, please?
Yeah. Okay, you ready for this one?
Yes.
What do psychiatrists like to put on their Sunday lunch?
We don't know.
Carl Jung's Cool Gravy. It's young, it's cool, and it's gravy. No?
Well, in my defense, I didn't get it until you explained it there.
Thank you, Eric. Okay. Thank you, Eric, for that. One day it will hit home, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay, Eric. No, don't worry. One day. Yes. But anyway, let's draw a veil over that, shall we? Was there anything else you wanted? Sorry?
A black veil.
A black veil. Would
like
you like to...
white mare in the graveyard when you're out with your friends.
Yes, exactly like that, Eric.
I think Eric has at least a promising career opening for Toya.
Yes. Well, by comparison, she looked good.
Sorry?
Eric, have you got anything else you'd like to say in the way of background?
No.
Okay. Well, I've got a few little bits, but you've kind of you've covered most of it. It's a difficult film to find much. What? Well, apparently,
Dale was in Neighbours.
Well,
you got that. You
well, don't spoil it, Joseph. So now that little bit's out the way. Deborah Lee Furness apparently cast the movie, and she went on to be Hugh Jackman's wife.
Oh, does he know that?
Sorry?
Did he know that? Did he know that before he married her?
Well, apparently it wasn't Hugh Jackman. He was the one, wasn't it, who wanted more than anything to play Jason Voorhees.
Oh,
in the movie. Apparently that was his ambition before he became famous, was to play Jason Voorhees. I'm pretty sure it's Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, it was Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. There was a script reading as far back as 1986 for the film, and that guy, was it Brian Mannix? Who was it? The guy who did the music. Anyway,
Brian Mannix, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, he apparently was at a script reading and was meant to be playing one of the band, but then declined to be involved after he saw the script. So... yeah,
well, he's not one to brag. He wrote Young, Cool and Groovy.
Well, exactly. Apparently, all the cast stayed on the houseboats, which were in the features, and they shot
really
over.
Is living.
Yes, they've shot it over 2 weeks when they all took holidays off their soap operas. Apparently, Quentin Tarantino has admitted seeing it, which is that's a strange thing to, because I found this article. There was a screening of Houseboat Horror in Australia a couple of years ago, or last year, and there was a little retrospective on it, very brief retrospective, some of these facts came from. and it said that Quentin Tarantino had admitted seeing it, and it's kind of like you can imagine that being on the box, the DVD box release.
Quentin Tarantino saw this movie.
Yes, exactly. Now, the part of the reason the film is as bad as it is that Ollie Martin wrote the film. He directed the film for 3 days before he was fired. After 3 days, he was fired because the crew started to walk off the film. So Kendall, what was his name, Flanagan, who, as Erik said, was kind of did Neighbours and Prisoner Cell Block H and other soap operas like that, was brought in to rescue the project. So Ollie Martin, actually, he was. You can see him in the film. He's the ambulance man at the end. So he's obviously still involved in it. But the film's producer, Greg Peverick, fired him after 3 days. Now, what else have I got? When the film got to being edited, some poor bastard got stuck editing it for 2 years, and they did 50 pickup shots during that time to try and rescue the film, because apparently it was all shot in a kind of wide angle or wide, so there was no kind of sense of dread or sense of suspense, which, if you imagine how bad it would have been before they tried to add all the extra stuff in. So that's why it was released in 88, 89, which kind of makes likely that it was filmed late 86 or early or sort of sometime during 1987. Now, I do have another little clip here, and this is from a review on you can find on YouTube. It's from 1992, which from the Late Show, the Australian Late Show, where they talk about the film, and here's a short clip of that.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that most of those characters are subsequently hacked to death by the killer. And I think that was one of the knockout Brian Mannix song hits I referred to earlier. Now, we can't really show you any of the blood-gushing mayhem from this film, but we've got one moment here, but I should warn you, it may be too intense for nervous or sensitive viewers.
Come on.
Shit! What sort of asshole would do that?
Yes, as you can see, Gavin's got all the good lines. That's Houseboat Horror. That's out now, and I'm going to award that one 4 Dolphs. That's 4 Dolph Lundgrens. That's my rating system for these films on this segment. It's rated R and comes with that guarantee of quality, banned in Queensland. So get hold of that.
So, yes, banned in Queensland. I think Queensland's infamous, isn't it, for banning pretty much everything.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I think it's Queensland banned. Didn't it used to ban condoms? I think it was one of these. It was a place that, but you couldn't get any horror movies, all sorts of things. But anyone,
was it banned because the guy puts on the condom?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. But I think they banned all horror movies in Queensland until relatively recently. But I think it's maybe any of our Australian listeners might be able to tell us a little bit more about that and the film. But I think that is Houseboat Horror, isn't it? And it's sunk without a trace. So,
can anyone think of a less glamorous location for a holiday on a houseboat? I can't.
Well, they could do Butlins, the Butlins massacre.
Maybe.
Nathan's grandmother's house.
Oh, Justin,
you can get a houseboat there.
You said less glamorous place for us.
As an aside, somewhere very glamorous where I saw not a slasher movie but a horror film set was Bristol, which is where Justin is living at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was
what
Exorcism, the Paul Naschy movie from the mid-70s. It's set in Bristol. I'm not sure if it was shot there.
Oh. Did you see any Bristol sites in it?
No. I think there's a lot of interiors in it, so it could have been filmed in Madrid or somewhere.
Well,
but Paul Naschy's in it with a beard.
Oh, okay. Right, I'll have to check that one out. But talking of films that I didn't, I forgot to mention, we watched this the other night, and I think this is one, Joseph, I think you might have mentioned a long time ago as a potential proto-slasher. But certainly, if we're talking bad movies, but this is Horrors of Spider Island.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, that movie's so awesome.
I love it. First time I've ever seen it, and talking about that was set in a tropical island, so it's a bit more of a glamorous location. But that is kind of got all of the that great trash aesthetic of getting loads of dancers in this instance, being chased around an island by a Spider-Man, basically a man who's been bitten by a spider, and he ends up looking like a, I don't know.
It's not a spider. It's more of kind of a werewolfy thing or something.
Yeah. But it's great. What I love about it, because especially the women they're all kind of, because apparently it was a nudie, originally shot as a nudie, but they're all kind of slightly rough-looking ladies, and it's introducing Babs, which I like. There's apparently she went on for quite a long career, but she's got a face like a slapped ass and big boobies. And she's just, they're sort of having loads of bitch fights and sort of, it's just like really good fun. It's it's a German film, isn't it? And then it was released into American screens in about 1962 with really, really bad dubbing. So, Erik, I think you would enjoy it. Have you seen it?
I know. When you mentioned it last night or the night before on Facebook, I watched. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it there. Right. What I liked about it was it follows the eyeball philosophy of having characters who don't really care that they're in jeopardy and just seem to frolic around regardless of who's been killed around them.
Yeah.
I love the plane, catches fire and crashes at full speed into the ocean, and none of them die from that.
No, that's hilarious, isn't it?
Floating around in the life raft, not bruised or anything.
Yeah,
that's
and
what I was going to talk about.
Their trauma is depicted by some girls going. Yeah.
And the very sensitive Gary, when he's like, "Stop that bawling! You're driving us all nuts."
Yeah. I also like the fact that I really like. You can tell it's a German film because they're so practical in it, aren't they? And when they decide they're going to, the person who's turned into this kind of spider monster was their old boss, who they had all had great affection for. But then when they decide they're going to kill him, they're all like, "Well, let's just kill him." So it's just that very German practicality of just putting aside any kind of emotions and just go and kill the spider monster, regardless of it being their friend. But yeah, that was good fun.
Like I said on your Facebook page, the character of Gladys, who falls in love with this guy after knowing him for about 10 minutes. Because they even go through this huge drama of the guy kind of making out with Babs, and then Gladys gets jealous, and Babs plays matchmaker to get the true loves back together.
I know. Babs wasn't all bad, was she?
No, she wasn't all bad. She had that great Crystal Alexis fight with Nellie.
Yes.
And she was hitting her with the belt.
fighting over a man. Yeah.
Actually, Nellie and Babs, I think they get into a big fight because Babs was telling them all that they're all going to die, so they might as well just enjoy it.
There were two characters fighting over a man, though, weren't they?
Oh yeah, that was Babs and Gladys.
All right, because I was thinking, you're stranded on a desert island, you're fearing for your life, blah, blah, blah. There's a spider monster running around. It's not the time to be having a fight over a man.
Well, I like the fact that after people have died and stuff, they have that big bikini party, don't they?
Yeah.
They do. They make the flower bikinis.
Yeah, and then drink whiskey and then go off.
Party.
Yeah. But that's worth checking out. It's not really. It's kind of. It has a few slasher leanings, doesn't it? But not really enough. But you, I remember you described it, didn't you, Joseph, a long time ago?
Yeah, it's basically sort of like you said, proto at least, and it's hilariously just wonky and bizarre. If you haven't seen it, definitely check that out.
It's really entertaining. Yeah. I love when they finally find shore, which is what they wanted so badly. The women, they're about 10 feet from the shore, and they're just like, "I can't go on. You go on without me." So basically, Gary has to go carry all of them to the beach.
It's yes. So that was all. Yes, that was a little aside, but that was a lot more entertaining, perhaps, than Houseboat Horror. I'm sad to say,
oh, yeah.
But let's get on to some feedback, because we got some feedback, haven't we, this time?
We did. Yes. Yeah. Well, I think
let's
all
start.
Have some.
Let's start by playing the feedback to let you know how to get in contact with us, and especially if you're from Australia, or even then to let us know what you think about Houseboat Horror, even if you're not. And here's how to do it.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at
Okay, who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay.
This is from our good friend, Tosca Top Socks.
Yay.
Hey.
He says, "Hey, you guys. Hope all is good with you. Did you know that Alan Dale is in Neighbors?"
No, he didn't.
Which one was he?
No, he did not. But basically, he says, "Sorry, I haven't been in touch for a while, but I'm in the process of moving house, so have had loads to do and stress about. I thought I would share a few recently seen with you and your listeners. First, The Good. Please check out No One Lives. I didn't know much about this, and it was a bit of a lucky dip pickup on my Love Film membership, but it turned out to be one of my favorites of the last few months. There is a corker of a plot twist just a few minutes into the film, and this tips your expectations upside down. I won't spoil it, but please check it out." And I have not seen No One Lives, but I will get around to that. He says, "I also caught up with American Horror Story Season 2. I think it was Joseph that said it wasn't supposed to be as good as Season 1, but I have to say that I loved it. I did not enjoy it as much as the first season, and I haven't seen the third season, but anyway. Despite the mind-boggling twists and turns, it remained inventive, clever, funny, and at times very sad. It's not very scary, but for sheer thrills and titillation, TV doesn't get much better. It even has a mid-season musical number, which I have watched over and over. Just fabulous. Finally, a warning to everyone out there. Do not rent Cabin Fever 3. What was Sean Astin thinking? He has gone from Lord of the Rings to King of Shite. This movie was so bad. No redeeming values whatsoever, and just riding on the coattails of parts 1 and 2. Be warned and avoid. Anyhow, I hope you guys are well, and I'm just going to sign off so that I can continue packing. Before I do, though, I hope that you like my new car ornament." And he sent a picture. It's basically a Jason little car window ornament, rearview mirror ornament, anyway. And he says that now adorns my rearview mirror. "I know that your listeners can't see it, but I'm sure that you will agree that Jason has never looked so cute. Until next time, lots of love, Tosca Top Socks."
Hey, thank you, Tosca. It was good to hear from him.
I've seen No One Lives, and I thought it was quite good.
I agree with Erik.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good as well.
Oh, I need to watch it.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but it sounds good. Another one to add to the list.
I will say this: if you don't watch any trailers, don't read anything about it, because the twist he's talking about is ruined in just about every review and in the trailer. So, just saying no.
Okay.
Well, what other ones did he talk about? I can't remember.
Cabin Fever 3.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I didn't like Cabin Fever 1 or 2, so...
I didn't either.
You know,
I've seen 2, but 1 I wasn't crazy about.
You heard that they're rebooting?
Yes, I heard. Franchise. They're remaking Cabin Fever 1.
Which is very bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
yes.
Gosh, you know you're getting old when you're these kind of seasons. You can see them turning, can't you, as they go through?
I wouldn't mind that, actually. I mean, the first one had some good ideas, but the comedy just kind of took away from it. So if they went more straightforward, I think it would be a good idea.
Mm. But the chances are they're just going to just make it more of the same, aren't they? I would have thought.
Yeah, probably.
Mm. Cool. Okay. Well, who would like to go next?
I'll go. Oh, okay. I'll go then, if that's okay with you, Erik.
Yes.
This is from Miles. I don't know Miles' last name, but it's just Miles.
Hamer?
Is it? Okay. It says, "Hi, you awesome foursome you. Hope all's good in Slasherland. I'm a longtime fan of your admirably shambolic body count ramblings and generally try to watch every film you cover. Thanks to availability, short attention span, and my finite lifespan, however, this isn't always possible. I'd sooner swallow a ball of piss-soaked wool than attempt Slaughter Hotel again." Oh, you didn't like Slaughter Hotel, Miles?
I love that movie.
That's a great movie.
Oh,
Miles.
Anyway, I write because of, as Nathan puts it, one of the greatest films ever made, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, it is. Actually, it's not one of, it's the. I would dearly love for you to cover it, but as I understand it, this won't be happening anytime soon. Please reconsider. Anyway, in the absence of any such episode, I provide itsy-bitsy micro reviews of the entire series for your oral pleasure. All right, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, exhausting masterpiece. Agreed. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, tiresomely wacky. It's wacky, I'll give it that. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, forgettably generic. Oh, I disagree. I like Part 3.
I do too.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, insulting shit. Oh, no. I have to disagree. The Next Generation is the best sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is entertaining. It's fun. It's probably in my top 10 favorite, slasher movies. That's how much I love it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, surprisingly effective. Oh, I disagree. I wasn't too big on the remake. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, gory nonsense. Agreed. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, pointless nonsense. Agreed again. Pretty disappointing for a series with such a kick-ass original. Does anyone else find it weird that the first film effectively has 4 separate sequels, 2, 3, 4, and 3D, none of which join up to the other? Anyway, I'm done, and as I'm sure you are too. Huge thanks for all the entertainment and education over the years, and congrats to Joseph and Nathan for The Night Before Easter. It may be a bit wonky in places, but clearly made with a passion rarely felt from such modern filmmaking. Mucho love, Miles. Thank you, Miles.
Well, thank you, Miles. And so, Nathan, do you feel that was a fair assessment, apart from the number 4?
Well, apart from number 4 in the remake, I wasn't huge on the Texas Chainsaw remake. I thought it was just kind of meh. So I just wasn't that big on it. But I kind of agree with some of his others. Not Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3. He said it was kind of just generic. But I thought it was, a fun little, early 90s movie.
Yeah. Well,
he says that the sequels don't tie into any of the other ones, but isn't Dennis Hopper's character in Part 2 related to Franklin from Part 1?
Yeah, he is.
So there is kind of a character. Well, and obviously the characters are carried over the villains.
Yeah, Part 1 and 2 are fairly well connected because the cook from the original is in Part 2. You know what I mean? So, because he was still alive at the end of Part 1. And Grandpa's still alive in Part 2.
Yes.
Well, alive-ish, yeah.
Yeah, as alive as he can be.
Yeah.
Well, as Miles said, he wanted us to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you're worried, aren't you, Nathan?
I'm just worried there could be some hate in the podcast for it.
What? For me, you mean?
Yes, from you.
Well, you see, the thing is with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, is that I like the first 60 minutes and I hate the last 30 minutes. So I do like 2/3 of it quite a lot.
So, Miles, blame Erik. Blame Erik.
As long as Erik could see some good in it, then
I do. I can see some good in it. Just for me, the last half hour just doesn't work for me. It's just shrill and annoying and headache-inducing, and it doesn't work for me. But the rest of it, I think, the build-up is really, really good.
The slasher parts.
Yes.
Well, we'll save that for possibly. If we ever get it.
Screaming women just don't do it for me. They do it for Joseph, I know that, but...
You think I'm some sort of rapist, don't you?
No, just
he just thinks that you're like a man whore.
Yeah, just you're so good in the bedroom that women scream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, although if they scream like Sally Burns, I'd be kind of worried. But
yes. Yeah. Well, after that bombshell, I think we should move on quite swiftly. So
yes, I've got one here.
Okay.
Sounds rude. I don't know why, but it sounds rude. This is from Christy. I don't have a surname for Christy. Do you, Joseph? No?
Nope.
Okay. Well, Christy says, hello, gentlemen. I just wanted to ask you if any of you were familiar with Paul Bartel's queer horror film, possible proto-slasher, Private Parts, from 1972. If so, what did you think of it? It's a bit slow, but has some still creepy moments, and it seems both slightly derivative and ahead of its time. If nothing else, it's fun to watch character actor and sometimes Winnie the Pooh narrator Laurie Main in all of his reverend leather daddy glory. Ooh. My friend Stephanie and fellow movie watcher listens in now too, and we've been using your podcast as something of a viewing guide, so thanks again. And that comes from Christy. And Christy says, P.S. Did you know that Alan Dale was in Neighbours?
Oh, I had no clue.
No, thanks, Christy, for that.
Yeah, thank you, Christy.
Christy, Private Parts, Paul Bartel's Private Parts. Has anyone seen them?
Yes, it's awesome. It's a great movie.
I haven't seen it, I have to say. But I think I do recall Justin possibly talking about them on the Talk about
private parts
on the podcast.
I am aware of the film, and it's something I've always fancied saying, because is it Mary Warrenoff in it as well?
I would imagine if it's a Paul Bartel movie, she can't be too far away.
No, I don't think she's in it.
Oh,
okay.
I don't remember her being in it at all. No.
It's a film that I've always fancied saying because I'm aware of it. Was it from 72 or something?
72, yeah.
Justin, you would really like it. I'm fairly positive you would love it.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty positive I would love it as well. So it's another one to add to the list. But yeah, it's just another one I've never got around to seeing. I mean, it's not very not well known, but I don't know. I've never found a copy of it. You know, I mean, to be honest, I haven't gone looking for a copy particularly, but it's not one I ever remember seeing on video or anything like that. So, but yeah, no, I am aware of it, and I'm aware of the concept and what it's about. So, but it's
what is it about?
Isn't it kind of a boarding house? Isn't it, Nathan? Is it?
Yes, it's like she runs like a. I don't know. It's kind of like a hotel or something, but people live there, so I guess motel, whatever. And you know, people come in, and like it's populated with the weirdest characters throughout. I mean, the people in the hotel are just so weird, and like it's ran by this sweet grandmotherly lady who's also kind of insane as well. I mean, and it's even like the girl who's supposed to be the normal one, the runaway who ends up there. Like she's supposed to be the normal one. Even she's kind of weird. So the whole movie's just a really like weird, like 70s. It's a product of its time. It's so 70s.
Excellent. And it's got Leather Daddy in it.
Oh yes, with his water balloon woman. Seriously, it's like an inflatable woman filled with water.
Cool.
That's called Eric's amour, I imagine.
Sorry?
It's like Sophie Steve.
That's probably called
like
your
Sophie
amour.
Steve.
Yeah.
No,
Justin,
thank you very much. If you want to find a copy, you can get one from Alan Dale. He's in Neighbours.
Okay.
Which one was he again?
He was in Neighbours.
Oh, right, that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that.
This is our new cat flushing the toilet. This is going to run and run.
Well, I don't think it's going to run quite as long as it. I think it's probably already people throwing themselves into Lake Infinity to get away from it at this point. So I've got one here. This is from Andrew Rooney. It says, "Hey guys, thanks for reading my email last week. I kind of guess this one because it talks about the burning a little bit later, so we may have been sitting on this for a little while." But he says, this is one you sent me. Hold on. You did send this to me today, did you not, Joseph, or not?
I might have. I sent out a few. I'm not sure. But anyway, read it anyway.
Hold on. Have I read this? But well, let's read it. And if not, because he sent it to me on the 4th of March, which 8th of March, I reckon we might have read this one. But anyway, let's read it again. What's the worst that can happen? It says, "I'm afraid we will need a new segment that can feature the brilliant cat flushing the toilet song. Maybe a selected snippet, a weak acting, or a poor line delivery each week. That would be in line with the number 2 theme. Or maybe listeners' questions, just a suggestion. Where did that novelty song come from, by the way?"
We read this one.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Andrew Rooney, for that.
Thank you again.
Yes. Thank you again. I think the reason is because when you sent me through the trailer on Facebook, that popped up, and I thought it was one you sent me something to read out. So if we haven't read it out, Andrew, let us know, and I'll read it out again. See, we are as professional podcasters as the people who made.
Now, I know we've read this because I remember going into how we found it was by Cameron Perry who wrote the cat flushing the toilet song. I remember us talking about it.
Yes. So, okay. Right. Okay. Well, anyway, let's just gloss over that little technical hitch there. Yes. Have we got any else? Any more?
I have one.
Okay.
This is from our Facebook page, actually. It's from Soren. I refuse to pronounce his last name and butcher it, so I'm just going to call him Soren. He says, "Hello, guys. A bit of feedback for you. It's been a while since you last did a show, and I know I'm not alone in hoping that you'll soon be serving your devoted listeners another helping of slasher goodness. Too bad the top 3s are probably gone for good, but hopefully this isn't also a goodbye to the cat flushing the toilet song. Anyway, as someone who has worked for years in talk radio, I have to say how impressed I am with you guys and the level of professionalism that characterizes the near... Yeah, see? There you go. Yeah. That characterizes the near 100 shows you've done. We'll let that stop. Because we're professional. Some of the time, at least. I have been particularly impressed with Nathan and Erik, who, in addition to being walking slasher encyclopedias and all-around nice guys, are very good and very personable interviewers. You guys really make the show worth the repeated listens.
Ooh,
oh, that's sweet.
You. Yeah, how does that make Justin and Joseph feel?
Yeah, what about us?
I think Justin's going to get his little due here. He says,
"Oh Lord."
To Justin, I have some constructive criticism, which I hope you will take in the spirit in which it is intended.
Oh.
One of mirth and good cheer. Justin, it's obvious you like to swallow.
What?
Not just copious amounts of alcohol, but also the odd syllable. A word of advice for you when reading either feedback, back covers, etc. Slow down, please. I'm only slightly exaggerating when I say that sometimes I can hardly understand a word you're saying. Enunciate.
Ooh. I'll try and slow down for Soren.
Anyway, he goes on and he says, and a question. I was surprised to realize that, to my knowledge, not once in any of your podcasts has the topic of Dexter been brought up, despite its obvious slasher leanings. What are your thoughts on the show? Do you watch it? Does it work for you, or is it not slasherific enough for your tastes? And please, please, no spoilers. I still haven't watched the final 2 seasons. I guess I'll answer that with, I think the first 2 seasons are wonderful, and then it just took a drastic dip in quality thereafter. That's all I'll say.
I've never seen even a millisecond of Dexter, but I do have an interesting fact about Alan Dale.
He was in Dexter.
He's related to the woman with the big hair in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. It turns into a cockroach.
Yes.
He was also in Neighbors.
Have you seen Dexter, Justin?
I saw, like Joseph, I saw the first 2 series, and then I kind of gave up after that. It didn't really interest me. I think it was kind of the classic thing with a lot of American series where they just keep on making them because they can make money out of selling advertising. And I thought it was a good idea that had run its course after 2 series. It didn't need to carry on as long as it did, I didn't think. But that's the same thing for something like Lost, or a lot of these, at least with American Horror Story, which I haven't actually seen anything past the first season. At least what they do is reinvent the whole thing each time and do a different story. But yeah, sometimes I just think they just carry on with these things just for the sake of it, and they do them into the ground. It's not
my problem with Dexter is basically it just became dumbed down. Like Justin is absolutely right. It's basically they could sell advertising, so they kept it going, but the writing got really sloppy and dumb, where they just basically spell out everything for the audience. And the very last season, I know you haven't seen it, so I'm not going to spoil it, but the very last season is one of the dullest, story-wise. One of the writers was talking about how they don't like to recycle plots they've already done, and that's all Dexter has ever done is recycled plots. And so people were expecting one thing, and they got this other thing, and then they called them out on it, like, well, you recycled this 10 times, so why didn't you just go back to this particular thing? And they refused to do it, but anyway.
Well, what bothered me about the writing in Dexter is, as it went on, the side characters, the other characters in it, unless they had something directly to do with Dexter, their storylines were so boring. I don't care about the love affair between the captain and Angel. I don't care. And that storyline just kept going and going, and it was so dull.
Right.
Okay.
But,
well,
yeah, those first 2 seasons are good, but after that, skip it.
Okay. Have we got anything else, or is that us done?
Oh, he says, okay, I'll stop typing now. My best wishes to you. Sincerely, Soren. And that's it.
That's it?
That's it. Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it for everything?
I think that's it, yeah.
That's it. Okay, well.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh.
So, let's, what are we playing out with?
Well, obviously it has to be Young, Cool and Groovy.
But of course,
Aww.
yes. But before we get to that, let's talk about what we're going to be covering next time, because we're still working our way through the listener picks. And the next time, we thought we would go from the unknown or the relatively unknown to the very well known. So we're going for one of the big ones, aren't we again, Erik?
Yes, big, huge one.
We are going to be dressing up in tuxedos and ball gowns.
Yep.
Ball gags,
perhaps, and heading out for the time of our life for prom night. So expect some disco.
All right.
What happens if we can't make it back for midnight?
You won't be coming home.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and Erik, I just want to tell you one thing in preparation for that podcast.
What's that?
It's not who you go with; it's who takes you home.
I'll remember that.
Right.
And that Allendale was in Neighbours.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's play out with Young, Cool and Groovy, and we'll see you next time for a date at Hamilton High. It was Hamilton High, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep. Hamilton.
Yes. Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks for listening, and see you on, the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Come.
Roll out the barrel.
Where is your banana, Erik?
Safely tucked away out of harm's way.
I get to watch The Night Before Easter again today.
So then I was like, yeah, but that's not my spoon.
It's not your spoon.
I sound like Jigsaw.
Or Susie.